Hey everyone, my name is Alice Nelson. We'll be hosting our virtual writers panel today. We are super excited to hear from everyone. We have some awesome people here today, some creative, funny people. Let me start by introducing you guys. So we have Catherine Bloom, who wrote Women and Boys Do Improv. We have Chelsea London Lloyd, who wrote Fuck Your Film. We have Ramel Rojas, who wrote Naughty Maids, Henry Sarofaner, and Noelle Baker, who wrote Dick 2.0. We have Taylor Fredericks and Ryan Castro, who is not here today, but we have Taylor Fredericks here with us, who wrote Basil King. And we also have Kyle Clayton, who wrote Bluegrass. So let's just kind of talk about just the logline and how these screenplays came to be and like what inspired you guys. Anything that you guys want to talk about regarding your project. So Catherine, let's start with you if that is okay. What is Boys or Women and Boys Do Improv about, and how did it come to be?
Women and Boys Do Improv is about, it's a kind of an absurd comedy thriller about a high school improv troupe that has a 2-girl quota. And a creepy little girl shows up one night and wants to audition for the team, and they don't let her until another girl dies. And it's kind of about her acceptance process into this troupe that another girl literally has to die for there to be room for another one. And what inspired it? I guess my own high school improv experience. And also just generally, I think, being in the comedy world is very male overall, and just it's still very stupid. And I think that there's room for things that are like really dumb, but also about kind of dark stuff. Yeah, and just kind of grappling with like not even the women in the script are likable, and I think that that's great. I think that we need more hateable women that we're still rooting for. Yeah.
Totally. That sounds awesome. Lots of current relevance. Well, like centuries of relevance there. How long is it? I see. Chelsea wants to know. Do we have a time?
Short screenplay, so it's like 20 minutes.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So you said this began in high school or when you were in improv yourself. So do you have any like next steps?
This screenplay was adapted from, I have a longer version of it that's a play. And the play is having a reading at Lincoln Center in June. So I have that coming up. And then I'm mostly a playwright and not a screenwriter. So
Okay.
I have another play coming up as well about my experience working as a nanny, as a caregiver, and just kind of like the absurd dynamics there with like lack of boundaries and just kind of dealing with actual children, but then adults that are often children too, and kind of being like a weird like middle person that's like a part of this family but not. So those are my current things I have coming up.
Cool. Very awesome. I like how you take a lot of personal inspiration to create. Very cool. Thank you for that. Chelsea, would you like to talk about Fuck Your Film?
Yes, sure. I always like hearing people's. That was cool, Catherine, to hear about your project. Fuck Your Film is about. I'll read the log line. It's on the should I put it in the chat? I don't know. We'll be interactive. On the 10-year anniversary of her dad's death, a jaded 20-something in Los Angeles reflects on the absurdity of content creation. She'd rather end her own life than make a short film about death, but is she serious? And it's a female-forward, dark, comedic parody that makes fun of, challenges, and ultimately celebrates the art of the short film. And I think it's at 15 pages right now. I'd love to get it to 12 to 13, but it's hard to cut. So yeah, that's where we're at right now.
So what inspired you to write this?
So this was a sketch that became a short. I Well, the bullet points are I do a lot of grief work, grief comedian. I have a grief podcast, Dying of Laughter, for comedians with dead parents. So everything I do is like pretty dark and death and cancer forward. My dad died of ALS, but more specifically, he had it my entire life. So I have the unique perspective of processing death. You know, my only memories of my dad are him dying, but he had it from when I was 4 to 19, which is already, you know, quite some time ago now. But most things I do about him, or my mom has stage 4 breast cancer and has had it on and off for 17 years. So I say she's so non-committal. She can't decide what to do there. But this was just supposed to be like a fun sketch, nothing to do with them at all. And then of course, everything ends up tying back to death for me. But I wanted to do all these short films that were just fun, but then everyone's like, but your stories with your, you know, your dad, it's like, that's so meaningful, so do that. So then we pivot to, okay, we'll do the ALS short, and he, you know, he didn't talk, so that's kind of interesting visually for filmmaking. But then I was like, no, I just like want to do like a fun comedy. Like I don't actually want everything to be so dark. And then that led to being like, well, why the fuck would I make a short film that wasn't deep? Like, why would I just make a comedy? And then that led to like, why would I make anything? Because it's going to cost me $10,000. So if it is going to cost me, then it does need to be meaningful, but it doesn't, because comedy by itself is meaningful. And then it spun into like, why the fuck are we making shorts? So it got real meta and dark, and it's landing just in between those two things. You're like, is this about her dad or is this about her career? And I love that, because I think all of us as comedians, like, we just do comedy. We're funny. Also, we've been through shit. Usually you choose one or the other, but this one just kind of sliced them both.
I also am curious how long it took you to like put all of this together. Do you think it was like years of like creation, or like a few months, or how long?
That's a good point. I go pretty slow. Like I spend a lot of time on one project and then release. I wrote this in the pandemic as a sketch, which was pretty quick. But then when it evolved to a short film, that definitely took longer, you know, to go from 3 pages to 10 to 15. It's not the number. I think if it was the number one thing I was doing only, it probably could have taken a few months. It took longer because, you know, I'm doing various other things, I'm sure, like many people here, and stand up and auditioning and my other jobs. I like DJ bat mitzvahs, like who knows what I'm doing. So all in all, probably the past 6 months has been a grind in various iterations. And finally it was done, until I did a table read and everyone's like, actually, here's other thoughts. But yeah, we're pretty done. So the last, you know, good chunk of months, it's been fun to work on.
Where are you in the process with it right now? I'm just curious.
Yeah, that's a good point. So I actually did a table read on Tuesday. It was too bad I didn't know you guys yet. I was like, that could have been cool to invite you. I did like a big virtual reading. I cast it. I reached out to like some like fancy people just to read it virtual. I mean, and then a bunch of friends, and I had like 50 people come. I kind of made it like a networking event. We did breakout rooms. And then of course, some of my friends who are professional writers, you know, higher up than me in that world, were like, why would you do that? Like, that was like too many people. That can like really like be hard to get all that feedback. So I had all these people giving me tons of notes. So that was just literally 2 or 3 days ago. So I plan to shoot this summer. I was like, I'm either shooting this in May or July, only because my little sister's getting married in June. So that kind of is, you know, focused on that. But I was like, May or July, based off of Tuesday. We're going July. There's some rewrites, but I'm sure, as everyone here knows, at the end of the day, it's melding notes with the confidence you have of this note I could take, this note I can't. I always find that process really interesting and collaborative. But so yeah, as of now, we're shooting in July. Stay tuned.
We definitely will stay tuned. Super excited to see what happens there. Thanks, Chelsea. Romel, let's talk about Naughty Maids a little bit. How were you inspired to write this, and what is it about?
So Naughty Maids, the log line is, it's a comedy mystery about 2 ex-best friends saving a failing sexy maid service and not realizing that the only glass client is probably a suspect of murder. So what happened is, like, when they went to the house just doing their own thing, and then they find like evidences of here and there, and then, you know, so the drama happens, drama ensues. And the inspiration on that was like, first, I'm an actor, and like having roles like this rarely comes by, and the auditions I get are not the roles that I want to play. So I got inspired in taking writing classes, workshops, reading books, and all that. And this is my second short screenplay, and yeah, just put in my character and my experiences in it, and I have a co-producer, my friend Julio Vega, which also I shot the first short film with, and he's on board, and yeah, so just excited to go about it. Yeah.
Very cool. Can I ask what inspired this idea? Was it just like a really good, fun idea, or where did this come from?
Because so the character of Ramon, which the character I'm playing, he's like the boisterous, like flamboyant character, like David Rose-ish, and the other one is like it's like the sleuth wannabe, cop wannabe, insecure, pushover kind of. And I want to put them in a situation where they can explore their quirkiness. And like we've seen The Office, we've seen like the space sitcom from years ago. We've seen people from working in bars, and we have not explored like house cleaners, like literally people going into houses and cleaning houses. So I want to explore that space. And the beauty of what I discovered is that when we go to someone else's house, we see how they live and we see how the person is just by looking at the things they have. Like if they have dictionaries, probably an old person or something like that, or like how they keep quirky stuff on their walls, and they might be colorful personalities and all that. So as I put them in these houses, we kind of explore who this suspect is. So we kind of like live in that space and discovering that space.
Okay, very cool. I like the situational comedy and yeah, quirkiness a lot.
Yeah.
Have you always been a story creator, or have you just recently sort of delved into like writing and stuff?
I've done writing like essays and stuff, but in terms of storytelling, I just officially delved in seriously with this one. Because like I said before, like I had exposure with like writing another short film, but I think having to learn the structure of it, like that's very important in how you tell your story. So we've like the Harmon technique or Save the Cat and all that, and then I like Ben Axelrod writing the pilot writing class. So I've kind of like melded all of them into one and just figured out my own style. So yeah, so this is like the first serious endeavor when it comes to writing.
Are you writing anything new, or are you kind of just focused on this right now?
I am, because this is a proof of concept that we're going to do. So it's a 15-page script. And so once we're going to shoot it in April, late April or early May. And then once we're done, we're of course going to go to film festivals and see what we can do after that for maybe distribution, or maybe someone wants to pick it up and shop it around. So, but I think it's just part of the process being a filmmaker and being an artist. But it's been fun but hard. Yes.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Ramel.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thanks. Henry and Noel, do you guys want to kind of talk about it together?
Okay. Yeah.
2.0 is a feature about a rich asshole who covertly clones himself because it's cheaper than divorce. But when he sees how much more his wife and kids love his clone, he must battle his better self to get back his better half.
Yeah, it's a story about a guy. We're kind of, Henry and I have done some other stuff together through the years. And in comedy, we kind of have a taste for big social issues and really neurotic characters. This is about a guy who, a Wall Street finance billionaire who on the very day he achieves his lifelong dream and makes the Forbes list, which is all he's lived for, his wife tells him she wants a divorce, which is going to instantly have his fortune and knock him off the Forbes list. And he's got, but his partner and mentor on Wall Street lets him in on a little secret, which is this island where all these billionaires go. And on this island, there's a doctor who is capable of cloning them. And they send the clones back to do all the dirty work at home in whatever businesses they're in, whatever they're running, whatever the complications in their lives, while they live up this life of obscene luxury on this private island. And so it's kind of, it's a comedy about the excesses of just income inequality, absurd wealth, kind of a satire of obscene wealth, and a kind of really out there, a kind of absurd edges to the comedy as well. And of course, the two guys named Dick end up going head to head towards the end in a conflict, in a story that the screw just keeps turning all the way to the end on this one.
Have you guys written a lot of things together?
Yeah, we've done a few things. Yeah, a couple of features and a couple of series ideas. Yeah.
What is the process like working so closely with one other person and writing something with another person, I guess?
We kind of go back and forth. Sometimes we work together in a room or via Zoom. Sometimes we say, okay, you work on this, I'll work on this, and we'll each write a scene and then we'll trade. There's no rules really, and we force ourselves to read it together. That's probably the most informative part, because unless you read it out loud, it's like a little mini table read. You don't really hear it. So that's where we sort of put, our ass to the fires. Okay, now we're going to read it aloud.
There's a lot of stress testing and collaboration, and you got to be able to, shoot each other down. The bar for funny can get competitive, and so we kind of keep trying to escalate. So it's a little bit, I don't know. This feels kind of funny too. You guys, I love the ideas I've heard about so far, and very visibly, Henry and I are a little on the slightly older side. We work in Canada, so in our defense, in terms of putting material up on a place like Film Freeway, and having worked as professionals for quite some time, Canada's a place where if you're just blazingly talented, you have every chance to claw your way right up to the lower middle, basically. So hence a kind of studio style, high concept comedy like Dick 2.0, we're not swimming in the right waters necessarily for this to be an easy sell. It's an expensive movie, and it kind of needs almost a connections to and a package to really happen at a studio type level. But it was just something that Henry and I were dying to write one on this level, and I think it was an idea that came out of just yakking about whatever was on our minds, and this came into focus for us, and over time the idea became the story. The story just got more detailed and better, and we worked this one and polished it over I don't know, while working on other things and doing stuff. How long do you think it took, Henry?
Oh, I'd rather not think about that.
Yeah, no.
Many months.
Yeah, it was a process. Yeah.
That's awesome. It seems like you guys are two very entertaining and smart people. So that sounds very exciting. Thank you guys so much.
Cool. I'm glad to be here.
Taylor, can you tell me what gave you the idea for Basil King? I want to know all about that as well.
Yeah, so honestly, the idea for Basil King happened when me and my buddy Ryan, who couldn't be here today, but we were eating pizza at a local Austin pizza joint, and we were looking at what toppings we wanted on this pizza, and we saw basil, and we saw how much they were charging for basil, $3 to $4. That's pretty outrageous for basil, but we realized, okay, the basil business must be booming, and so sparked a 6-episode season, and we wrote that within probably a few months, and we've had the pilot script out right now for the festival circuit. It's been doing pretty well, and it's a mafia satire, so it's about I'll read the long line. Pursuing greatness in the mob world, 3 aspiring gangsters are thrown into hot water with the wrong people after knocking off a man with debts to pay. So the biggest thing that we've been trying to accomplish with this is we're trying to bring back the R-rated comedy. It's something that, me and my writing partners grew up with, all the Farrelly Brothers films. I grew up with that old SNL, 90s SNL. And it's just something that we love so much. So I always keep telling people this, if Basil King is essentially if Goodfellas and Eastbound and Down had a baby, okay, and that baby was raised by Tropic Thunder, you would get Basil King. So that's kind of what the route we took with it, and we're just trying to overstep bounds because it's gotten to a certain point in today's society where, you know, comedies being so watered down, and I think a lot of people are afraid to kind of just like, oh, offend anybody, but it's like, yo, comedy is comedy. Like, it's not trying to offend, it's not trying to harm anybody. We're just out here trying to have a good time, make people laugh, and a lot of the stuff, you know, can be very relatable, and I think we're really trying to bring that back because there's an innocence to it, and there's the characters that we've created for this series, which me and my buddy play a couple of the main characters in it, are very likable. They do a lot of stupid shit, but they're very likable. And so that's the one thing that we're really trying to do is we're trying to bring back the R-rated comedy, and you know, hopefully people can welcome that with open arms, and hopefully we can have this new generation of the R-rated comedy.
I'm rooting for you guys. That sounds pretty cool. Thank you, Taylor.
Oh yeah, thank you.
Kyle, what inspired Bluegrass, and what is that about, and where are you in the process right now as well?
Yeah, so I mean, I'll just do the log line to start. So after a series of increasingly public personal crises, a former golf prodigy finds himself relegated to an eccentric tour, an amateur tour where he must reprove his talent while also trying to wrangle his chaotic personal life. So the inspiration for this script, I mean, like a lot of people, you know, during COVID, especially writers, comedians, a lot of time on my hands. So around the 2020 mark, I started writing this concept because I'm a golfer myself. I've been playing since I was 8 years old, just casually, sometimes competitively. So long before the COVID hype of golf that has now become the established world of, you know, if you've heard of the Live Tour expanding. So it's kind of in a silent golden era. I think every year since COVID happened, they had like 500,000 new registered golfers. So it's really expanding massively. And if you look at comedies and sports comedies, there hasn't really been anything significant since Happy Gilmore for golf. You know, it's always been seen as like an old man's game, a traditional game, and there's a younger audience with eyes on it. So just writing what I know really was something that inspired the project. Similar to Taylor, you know, I like to not push the limits, but just put my spin on it with, you know, some of the humor that's a little edgier, and a character that's as jaded as Wyatt Owens leaves a lot of room for that. And putting him into, you know, kind of a fish out of water concept where he's this chip on his shoulder, fallen from grace, angel of a player, thrown into an eccentric tour of, it's like an island of misfit toys, where it's really like almost like a purgatory for him. That's the punishment it's supposed to be. It creates a lot of concepts for interacting with these like zany people that are almost kind of throwaway people in the mind of the golf and professional world. So sets up a lot of opportunity for funny interactions, and you know, at the same time, it's a duality of a sports comedy where it's following golf and that world itself and the traveling pro, but it's also following, you know, a broken individual who is trying to rebuild themselves in a state of, you know, long mourning and wrapping up that process in their life, but also rebuilding the foundation of what it is to be that individual of Wyatt Owens and rebuild his character.
So it's like an edgier comedy about like emotion, like kind of emotional too, following someone's.
Yeah, I mean, so some of the inspiration for like the more not intense, but like real elements of it, you know, I was a fan of like the Barry series, some of the moments in Ted Lasso where it just humanizes the character. So, you know, the goal with that was to make it somebody who you can root for, you know, somewhat of an anti-hero at times. It's tough to attach them in a comedy just because they're so surface level, and a lot of times it's a cardboard character. So giving them relatable qualities, redeeming character qualities, and a story that humanizes them and shows, you know, why on the surface this character is such an issue, why it has so much, you know, so much trauma that has created the you know, persona that has now encapsulated and eclipsed his golf career and himself and his family and in the professional world. It just I like to add a little bit of depth so it's not so surface level. People get attached to it. and it kind of makes the story more rich, in my opinion, and it's more rewarding with the comedy. I think the jokes land a lot better when people are kind of on a roller coaster of emotions, not so deep. I don't want people like crying when they're reading or watching the show, but I want them to think about things and to challenge their emotions as well.
I personally love things that are kind of sad, but also really funny. Like you can turn them into funny moments. Well, that sounds great, Kyle. Thank you so much for sharing about that. Thanks for being here, everyone, by the way, and sharing everything. And if anyone wants to say any upcoming projects that you want to talk about, or Taylor, go ahead.
Well, yeah, I just want to say that we're actually shooting the pilot coming up this summer for Basil King. The concept trailer is out already on YouTube, and we're actually we've been doing like little skits in the universe, and we're premiering the first skit next month at this big premiere of our buddies too here in Austin. And yeah, pretty excited about getting the ball rolling on that. And yeah, I think that's a good way to market it. And I guess basilkingfilm.com to see all that good shit. So
Nice. basilkingfilm.com. I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to say I'll look it up, Taylor. Good luck with it. I'll check it out on YouTube.
I was going to ask, I'm curious. I know there's some shorts and features, which is completely different, but like where people hope their projects end up. I know there's Omeletto for short comedies. That's a plug if you don't already know about it. But for shorts, do you hope to sell it? Do you hope to make it? Are you like, I hope it gets distributed? And for features, do you plan to make it, or would you rather sell it and have someone make it? So if anyone wants to jump in there.
Big budget features are it's a tricky game. Obviously, you need to partner with people up the food chain, and from there, a question of unlikely to direct at the scope of a project like this. So it's almost certainly more of sell it and be involved in the process kind of situation with a script at this level, basically.
I'm planning on making mine. Yeah. It just has one setting, so I just need to find a high school to film it in. And that's it.
Yeah, if anyone has a direct line to CAA, let me know, because I'm trying to reignite some conversations. That the strike, I had an executive producer attached. We're shopping it around. That took place, and now it seems like the industry's kind of backlogged for especially series and pilots. There's a lot of existing projects that are still taking precedent for newer things. So I have the proof of concept shot, series Bibles created, so in the evaluation process for networking it. But yeah, the goal is to shop it around and find the right home, whether that's production company attaching talent, and then bringing that to maybe a director or a showrunner that's attached. Just open any collaboration. So that's the step that we're at right now with Bluegrass.
Cool. Kyle, I might add, CAA reps golfers among other sports figures, and that it might be a backdoor way into something is to approach not the place where there's a slush pile of scripts, but the place where they're handling another angle. And if you find a champion in that side of it, it could spill over.
Love that. Yeah, I mean, that's good to know about CA and they're repping your golfers. Yeah, I mean, again, attaching somebody who's actually in the world is a huge leg up and a good backdoor, like you said. So I appreciate that, Noel.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. Thanks for being here today and showing up and talking about your awesome projects and adventures, and good luck to everyone. Thank you so much.
Sounds good. All right. Take care. Bye, guys.
Thank you.